Welcome back, Twisters, and hey there, hockey fans. Nick here with another Shark Fin Friday video for ya. We're flashing back to when Joe Thornton was acquired on November 30th, 2005, certainly one of the biggest moments in San Jose Sharks franchise history. So we're going to take a look at the history behind the trade right there. But before we do, make sure if you haven't already, hit the red subscribe button down below and the notifications bell, especially if you're a San Jose Sharks fan. And make sure you see the video description down below because I'm giving away $50 in Twisted Wrister merchandise. So that could include hats, it could include t-shirts, and I'm actually giving it away for two of you out there. So make sure you see the video description down below and do not miss out on that whatsoever. So let's take a look at the San Jose Sharks first of all. This is the 05-06 season. So it's the first full season after the lockout in 04-05. And the Sharks were having a terrible season. They were 8-12-4 before Thornton played his first game in Teal. And even going into the trade, they were 0-7-3 in their past 10. So this was really surprising given that in the 03-04 season, the Sharks made it all the way to the conference finals right there. So it looked like, they were still in that sort of contention window, but then they were about to land themselves a big fish, ladies and gentlemen. So going the other way were Brad Stewart, Marco Sturm, and Wayne Primo. And Stewart was a top four defenseman for the Sharks. And of course, Sturm was also adding some good scoring in the top six there too. So a couple of good players went over to Boston, but for what the Sharks got for Thornton, it was just an unbelievable deal right there. Think about it this way, guys. This was happening, not even 2 months into the season after a whole year with no hockey. So just an absolutely massive trade right there that shook the hockey community at large, and especially here in San Jose. Now, how was Thornton before he came over to the Sharks? Well, he was basically a point per game player, although he had had a breakout season a couple years prior as well. So the season before, in 77 games, he had 23 goals, 50 assists for 73 points, and he had also been averaging basically over 100 penalty minutes for an 82-game season right there. So the guy was getting into some scraps. He was certainly a chippy player in that sense right there. In the 02-03 season, he had finished fourth for the Hart Trophy with 36 goals and 65 assists for 101 points. And in his 23 games with the Bruins in 05, he had 9 goals, 24 assists for 33 points, and just 6 penalty minutes, so he was a lot more disciplined out there. Now, I wasn't a huge hockey fan at this point. I would tune in a little bit here and there, maybe at the most. I would go to a game or two a season, but I knew the name Joe Thornton because of playing NHL 2K4, and he was one of the top-rated players in that game. So when I heard that name, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, what are the Sharks doing landing a guy like this? And a couple of my friends were just absolutely dialed into the Sharks, and so I was starting to think, okay, if I want to kind of keep up with them and be one of the cool kids, I guess I got to follow this team a little more closely than I typically do. So when that trade went down, I absolutely got right into this team. And of course, right after that, I was just a diehard for life right there. So this had a huge impact on me as a fan. Joe Thornton was the first real elite Shark ever. We had some stars, absolutely. We had terrific players, Owen Nolan, Patrick Marleau. He was certainly a fantastic player for a number of years, even before Jumbo came to the club. And of course, Evgeny Nabokov was also kind of a star at that point, too. He had won the Calder, and he had a couple of very good seasons for San Jose right there. But holding a candle to Jumbo Joe Thornton, a guy who could put up 100 points in an 82-game season, now that was definitely something worth your while. So how did Joe Thornton do when he came to the Sharks? Well, I'm sure a lot of you know the end results of things, but let's look at this. In 58 games with San Jose, he had 20 goals, 72 assists for 92 points and a plus 31 rating. So he was on pace for essentially a 130-point season if he played all 82 games in San Jose right there. He had 8 goals and 32 assists just on the power play alone. And of course, as a result of his heroics in Team Teal and helping them surge ahead and securely get into the playoffs there, he won the Art Ross Trophy for the most points in the NHL, just getting past Yager there, and he also won the Hart. And the guy who reaped the reward of Joe Thornton the most was unquestionably Jonathan Chichu. So Chichu technically led the Sharks in scoring that year with 93 points. Marleau had 86, and as I mentioned, Thornton, despite playing 24 games fewer in Teal, had 92 points. So Chichu on the season had 7 goals in the team's first 24 games. So Jumbo Joe comes in here, or Big Joe, I guess, as we started calling him initially. And Chichu, in those 58 games with Joe, he had 49 goals. First of all, for anybody to score 49 goals in 58 games is absolutely remarkable. Remember, guys, this is still somewhat in the dead puck era right there. So Chichu, who had scored, I think his previous high was like 27, which is still really good. But this guy scored with a 20.9 shot percentage once Thornton was there. That is ridiculous. Usually the best snipers in the league are around maybe 18%, 19% maybe. But Chichu was clicking at nearly 21% right there. Just everything he shot went in. That's what it seemed like there. And of course, a lot of Chichu trains were whistled at the Shark Tank there. Now, how did the Sharks do as a whole? Well, I mentioned earlier they were 8-12-4 before Joe came to their club. Once he arrived, they went 36-15-7. So they had 79 points in 58 games. So that would basically put them on pace for a 111 or 112 point season. So that would, of course, be very, very high. And the Sharks finished with 99 points overall to secure a playoff spot right there. I think they were the 5th seed in the Western Conference. And they won 8 of their last 9, so they went into the playoffs playing some of their best hockey. Now, how did Thornton do in the playoffs? Well, the Sharks, they were eliminated in 6 games in the second round to the Edmonton Oilers, the unbelievable coming out of nowhere Edmonton Oilers, an 8th seed who were 1 win away from the Stanley Cup right there. But nonetheless, Thornton was still productive. He wasn't scoring quite at the pace that he was earlier in the regular season, though. So in 11 games, he had just 2 goals, 7 assists for 9 points and a -4 rating. He was also averaging over 25 minutes of ice time, which is just absurd for a forward. Now, Thornton, by the way, was 26 at this time, so this was easily the prime of his career right there. The Sharks, they were able to get past the Nashville Predators in the first round right there. They won that in 5 games. And then they went up against the Oilers, and they had a 2-0 series lead. I was actually at Game 2, and I kind of want to cover that in a future video. There's the pain and pleasure of that game, absolutely right there. But the Sharks got swept after that, so they lost their last 4 games to the Oilers. But Thornton did have a goal and 3 assists. It's just that they got lit up a couple of those nights. Dwayne Rollison was playing out of his mind. Very odd series right there. If the Sharks had found a way to win that, it would have been interesting. I think they might have had a pretty good chance at, doing that. But alas, here we are. Nonetheless, Joe Thornton, just an absolute gem of a member of this franchise for many, many years right there, 15 years in Teal. And of course, having a huge impact on me as a fan because I was just a casual fan at most at the time. And Thornton was a huge catalyst in making me a diehard, along with 2 of my best buddies in high school right there. So Jumbo Joe, still a legend, and just the way that the Sharks took off as a result of him arriving is quite remarkable right there. And the Sharks were able to they were in the playoffs all but, 2 of the years that he was in Teal. So, not too many clubs can say anything like that. So Joe Thornton, still a legend, absolutely. I could even do more videos on him, but I'll stick with this trade for the time being. What do you remember from the Joe Thornton trade? What do you remember from that year? I want to know down in the comments below, and let's have some more San Jose Sharks conversations throughout the season, as painful as it may be. But we can always reflect on the good times, right, guys? Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. It helps others like you discover this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out that giveaway. You don't want to miss out on that. And I'll see you around for more San Jose Sharks content. Once again, my name is Nick. I'll catch you twisters later. Ciao.